chance to win right now. He's
gonna win it, guys.
Like it. The problem with, well, yeah, I say the problem, one of the entertaining things and also the problem with Indy 500 is you can be leading for the majority and that doesn't mean you're going to win. Like it's very much, it can certainly change right at the end.
Yeah. Well, Award now is into second because P2 just pitted, so it's only like a second between him and Rosenquist in first. So it should be a good little fight for the lead in the last sort of 40 laps. And there's a big chance we get another caution before the end.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
and also, really. Zach Brown not at F1, absolute W. Please, IndyCar, take him more often.
Do you know what? If I wouldn't mind if McLaren win this race just because Zach Brown's not there. So
you don't have to hear him go, we had such a good race with Lando and Oscar.
And Oscar was there, but Lando Norris, what a driver!
I mean, I can't hate the man. He's literally taken McLaren from one of the worst teams on the grid to winning back-to-back constructors. I can't hate on him.
McLaren fanboy. Are you wearing your jumper today? Me and Pulse can't see, James.
No, it is absolutely 1,000 degrees.
Homer Simpson always wears his white t-shirt.
Oh, he's not wearing a McLaren top.
He wears a coat, though, right? Homer Simpson, if it's cold, wears a coat.
He's still wearing your McLaren top, though. So
I'm still wearing orange.
Still wearing orange. Yeah.
Or papaya, sorry, I should say.
Sets out of the wardrobe for today.
Yeah, it's the summer collection, you know. Done the big change of swap from jumper to all gone.
I've just been DM'd on Steam, of all places, a new James picture that dropped in the subreddit today.
I don't
just dropped. It is brilliant.
God.
If you would like to see more amazing pictures of James, you can join our subreddit r/crashhappy. It's just Crash Happy, right? It's not like anything else.
Just Crash Happy,
yeah. They'll find it. They'll find it.
We react once a month to the videos. They're quite funny. Sometimes they annoy us and we shout at you, but most of the time we like what you send in there.
Just send good stuff and we won't be mad at you. It's really not that difficult.
Basically, just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's really easy to do.
Exactly.
By the way, guys, Award is pitting now and is like back in wherever.
Guys, listen.
Don't
understand.
In all fairness, I think a tire fuel stint is about 35 laps, which is how much is roughly left. So
yeah,
should be pushing to the end, and there'll probably be people ahead that need to pit still. So
yeah,
be interesting to see.
Right.
We calling it there? Do you have one more game?
Everyone over to the James stream.
The James stream. It's probably started. I have it set so that
James, I honestly, I don't envy you at all today. It's so boiling. I can't wait to just open the doors and chill out.
I can't wait to get out of this office. Like,
what do you mean? We've got 3 more games to we got, you know.
Oh no, I'm good, man.
No, we're good.
Maybe next time.
Grid walk to watch, mate. Got grid walk.
Yeah. We need Pulse in Sheffield. Can I get a lot more
Patreons for that? I think we're gonna need a lot more Patreons for that.
Yeah, we got to afford an IRL kit, so we definitely need a lot.
Yeah,
of
that's true.
for that.
Fucking Starlink or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we ain't giving that guy money. All right. Well, as Takuma Sato is about to take... Oh, no, he's not. He's pitting. Never mind. That would have been interesting. But I hope you all enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix. As Paul said, James is continuing streaming for the entire however long this race will be. I'm assuming if it's raining, we might get some safety cars, some red flags. So potentially you could be in for the long haul, James.
Could be a long one.
They go over to @NAJames and watch your stream.
That'd be absolutely lovely. Thank you for joining me, lads. Appreciate it. I don't know who's on the Monaco stream, but good luck to them. And I will enjoy.
Not do that one.
Not be there.
I'll enjoy watching the. Well, if it's anything like today and Duck literally ducks out at like 20 minutes beforehand.
Yeah. Well, we also have to say,
yeah, you're not backing out of that one, Doug.
I think we got to say like a big thank you to all the people who donated the stream as
that
well.
is amazing.
Especially, obviously, Macro, who sent £100 towards the Made Dressed by Monaco stream. So that should be fun. Tune in to next stream because we will be wearing our beautiful clothes, our made dresses for Monaco. So you don't want to miss that. And head over to the Jame. Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy.
Right, end stream. Shall I click that? Right.
Give it a sec. It usually takes like 20 seconds to go through. But we are, I think, also live on my channel too. But I will say goodbye. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy Canada.
That stream.
Enjoy, James.
Good luck.
Oh, there's 2 streams, isn't there? Not one. So I've got in the other one.
All right, Pulse. I'm gonna let you go, Pulse.
Okay, bye.
Dan, you can deal with him.
Bye.
Yeah, no, I'll see you later.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Apologies, a little bit of an overlay in terms of the Crash Happy pod, but if you weren't over on the Crash Happy channel, we do a full pre-race stream where we break down everything that you need to know before the Canadian Grand Prix and every Grand Prix. And as you've just heard, we will also be wearing particularly special outfits in Monaco, thanks to the incredible generosity of the Crash Happy people. Like, Crash Happy's been insane. It's been one of the best things I've ever done on YouTube by a considerable distance, and I think most people in the chat will also agree. It's 1 a.m. in India. Oof. Yeah, we're starting to get towards the races that are better times for me, to be fair, but not so great times for other fans across the world. We are looking, though, at some intermediate tyres on the grid. It is a little bit wet. And will that change some of your predictions? These were your predictions. I know we talked about them a little bit yesterday if you were here for the qualifying stream. Those of you that weren't, though, you can get your predictions in. I put out a post around sort of Monday, usually Monday, of a race week, so you can get your predictions in, and I accumulate everybody's votes and put together these predictions here. As you can see, the majority of people think that George Russell will go on to win this Grand Prix from pole position. A lot of people then backing Kimi Antonelli and Lando Norris to hold on to second and third place. Remember, a lot of these predictions were done way back on Monday, Tuesday, early in the week, so very impressive that a lot of people have nailed it so far. Obviously, a race still to come. Positive surprise of the weekend being Max Verstappen. He's a wet weather specialist. I could certainly see him doing something a little bit special here. Best team Mercedes, looking likely. The struggle Lewis Hamilton. At the beginning of the weekend, I would have completely agreed with you. I think after qualifying yesterday, I think it's the other Ferrari driver that's having a worse time inside the Scuderia team. And then flop team being Aston Martin. I could also understand, considering if you haven't seen, Lance Stroll will be starting from the pit lane. So they've decided to take Lance Stroll and starting from the pit lane. It does shuffle the grid a tiny little bit. We can look at the qualifying grid for you. Russell Antonelli at the front, a lockout on the front row again for Mercedes. Should just get used to that by now, shouldn't we? Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri just behind in third and fourth place. So be interesting to see what the McLaren cars can do, especially in these mixed conditions. We haven't seen anybody race in these conditions as of yet. Maybe the McLaren deficit that it does have to the Mercedes car might just be able to get in there. And actually, third and fourth place might become first and second. We'll have to wait and see. Pato O'Ward doing really well in the Indy car. Maybe we can win the Indy 500 and win the Canadian Grand Prix. That'd be quite a spectacular day for the McLaren team. Lewis Hamilton starting in fifth place. Max Verstappen in sixth place. As I say, Hamilton getting the better of the two Ferraris. Isaac Hadjar, so close to like a mesmeric run from Isaac Hadjar. He just didn't quite put together the lap in the end. It was a bit frustrating, really, because he was so quick in Q2, topped the timing sheets in Q2, did Isaac Hadjar, and then it just kind of slipped away from him a little bit, ended up in seventh spot and behind Max Verstappen, despite being ahead of Max Verstappen's time up until about the hairpin. So keep an eye on Isaac Hadjar. He's running well here this weekend. Charles Leclerc having an absolute nightmare of a time inside of that Ferrari. He starts in 8th place. We'll see what he can do from there. And then Lindblad and Colapinto starting inside of the point scoring places. And it has to be said, both Lindblad and Colapinto having much better seasons than maybe I predicted, than maybe many predicted. Lindblad looking really strong this weekend. Had a couple of sessions where he's been off the pace in comparison to Lawson. Since sort of Australia, where he really jumped onto the map for a lot of people. Obviously, his first race in Formula One. But then also, Colapinto's kind of come into it as well and been really solid in the last few races, sort of China onwards, really. Colapinto starting to click into gear. Then just outside of the point scoring places, we have got Hulkenberg, Lawson, Bortoletto, Gasly, Sainz, and Behrman. Just behind, they would have dropped out. Oh, no, sorry, because of the shuffle around, but they would have dropped out in Q2 yesterday. And then we've also got Ocon and Albon, who are the 2 midfield cars that joined the Aston Martins and the Cadillacs in the bottom 6 there from yesterday's qualifying sessions. What's wrong with the Singapore light? Nothing's wrong with the Singapore light. It's just retro. It's vintage, you know. Everybody's loving vintage stuff nowadays. Vintage is all the rage. It's just a vintage Singapore light. No, it was correct, and then they decided to do some work to the chicane that is like here. So that bump no longer exists, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately for the racing, to be fair. It's made it a quicker circuit, but unfortunately for my light, it no longer exists. Vintage, exactly. We can call it vintage, right, Sarah? That's allowed. You can call it. That's an in word. If something's vintage, it's good. It's cool. Am I vintage? Well, now we're getting a little bit nasty, aren't we? Lance says it's really cold and wet. Yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting start. First and foremost, it's gonna be an interesting start to see what the stewards decide to do. Will the stewards decide to go for a rolling start or a standing start? We were kind of debating this a little bit over on the pre-race show on Crash Happy. I would support a rolling start if it means that we get a lot more racing. But obviously, everyone wants to see a standing start. Like, everybody would love to see a full standing start, not have too massive of a crash into the first couple of corners, and then also continue to see some good wet weather racing. But it's not absolutely torrential rain, it does have to be said. It is a little spatter of rain here and there. And Sergio Perez even saying it's sort of only in a few places where you'd really be worried about the amount of water that's on the track. Other than that, it's a fairly dry track, but also very cold. So it's that, like, okay, if you're on the hard compound tire and you're having to get the temperature into them, it's going to be pretty tricky. But also, you might have to go onto the intermediate tire at some point. Do you start on the intermediate tire and maybe gamble on it raining a little bit more? Still 15 minutes until we get really underway and start to see who is where in terms of their tyre selection. So make sure you are here for that. By the way, just before we get started, if you could hit the like on this video, that'd be absolutely amazing. Subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. It's completely free for you, and it really does help out the channel massively. So over 20, you're considered vintage. Is that true? Jesus. Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'm vintage plus. I am very vintage indeed if it is over 20 that you have to be. I'm very vintage. That's something that I didn't expect to find out today, but there you go. Kimi and Russell will collide with each other. I mean, we can get in some interesting predictions. Kimi certainly had a go at it yesterday, didn't he? As we see Burt Mylander there in front of the safety car. The stories he must have. I really want, like, Burt Mylander to do... I suppose he can't right now, but once he finishes Formula One, I'd love him to do, like, a says all kind of interview or podcast or something where he just talks about all of the experiences he's had being the safety car driver. I imagine there is some mad stuff that he has had to deal with and talk about and go through that he obviously doesn't want to talk about yet because he's still got the job as the safety car driver. But Burt Mylander there at the beginning. I'd love to know your thoughts, though. Likely that we'll see a safety car. I mean, that's just likely in Canada anyway. But on top of that, with the mixed weather conditions, even more likely. So we can certainly get some wacky predictions in, because as soon as there's a safety car, especially if it's an awkward time, or there is that changing weather where suddenly everybody has to go from slick tires onto intermediate tires or vice versa, we could definitely see some weird people running towards the front end of the grid. I'd love to know who you think will be able to get to that front end of the grid, even in the weird conditions. You didn't think you were vintage, Josh? Wow, we both learned we're all vintage in this chat. Mr. V's probably ancient. I think me and Mr. V are literally the same age. I think we're exactly the same age. It's Duck and Dan that are the young ones over on Crash Happy. It's a bit of a weird gap, to be fair, over on Crash Happy. Like me, V, and Pulse, I think are all pretty much identical in terms of age. And then Dan and Duck are also very similar ages as well. But there is like an 8-year gap between the youngest of the 3 and the oldest of the 2. I think Dan is like early 20s, 22, 23, I'd maybe guess. Can't remember off the top of my head. So there's a little bit of a gap in Crash Happy, but that's what makes it fun. It's 5 very different people all on the same podcast for some reason. Lando Norris being asked about the mixed conditions, whether or not he thinks they will help out the McLaren team. I think they will actually be fairly in favor of the McLaren team in comparison to the Mercedes guys. I do think we could see McLaren do something a little bit special here, but Lando Norris not looking overly positive, to be honest, so maybe I'm completely wrong. We need a weather forecast in the corner. I mean, the weather at the moment, in fact, maybe I can find one. Canadian Grand Prix weather. The Met Office, Montreal F1 Canada. Wind, rain, sun. It is not raining right now, by the looks of things. But then you look at the Sky Sports coverage, and there's a little trickle here and there. So it's kind of rain, but like very, very light rain, I would say. And there's a few umbrellas still up. There's a lot of gazebos on the Formula One grid still. So certainly not completely and utterly dry. And even if it's not wet, like if it's damp and just cold, that will still very much like throw a bit of a spanner in the works for a lot of the cars out there. And a lot of the drivers who haven't driven maybe in those conditions yet this season with these cars, you know. As much as we say there's a lot of very experienced drivers on the grid and some not so experienced drivers on the grid, they're also adapting to the brand new cars in brand new conditions if it is going to be a wet race. So even if you are one of the best drivers or one of the most experienced drivers on the grid, there's certainly some mistakes that could be made. It's going to be a wet race. I think at the minute, it looks like the rain is sort of here and there. It's hit and miss. I don't think will we see an intermediate tire run? I don't think right now, if I was making the call for a team, I don't think I'd go intermediate tires. I don't think I'd go intermediate tires, even though there's sort of damp patches in places and there's a little trickle of rain here and there. It's not a substantial amount. But then I suppose the other problem that they've got is it's quite cold. So the rain isn't going to evaporate very quickly, but there are other ways that the rain is drained from the circuit too. So it's an awkward one. What do I think about no quali instead bidding for P1? How on earth would that work? please give a detailed description of how that would work. Please say Viven. Okay. Softs might be better. That's also the thing, right? If they do go onto the soft compound tires, because as you say, the soft compound tires would certainly be better because it's super cold. It's then the other side of that where, yes, it will be quite cold and you'll be able to get the soft compound tires up to temperature, but how long will they last? You know, we use the medium and hard compound tires more often than not in the races because we know they're going to be able to go the distance. and be able to sort themselves out. But with the soft compound tires, you're then kind of opening yourself up to what kind of strategy calls can you make? Do you have to then do a 2-stop rather than a 1-stop if you go on the soft compound tire at some point? Still have to go onto the medium at some point as well. I think it's a really hard call. For me, medium tire seems like the play. I know that the medium tire is normally the play at the start of any Grand Prix, like the majority of the time anyway. But it does feel like the medium compound tire is maybe just set up that little bit more. Dream scenario would be start on the softs, then it starts raining 15 laps in. Yeah, basically that would be beautiful. Like if we could script it right now and we could say, right, the rain is gonna come. Yeah, I think 15's right, because if they started on the soft compound tires, I reckon the softs would maybe last 20 to 23, 24 laps. I would imagine. I haven't really looked at the race stints that they did in free practice 1. We only had one practice session to really see whether they did any long running. I don't know if anyone did any long running on the soft compound tire, to be fair. So we don't really know how long they will last, but let's say 20 to 25 laps maybe. If it starts raining at like 15, it's just that little bit of like, okay, they would have likely been pitting in a few laps anyway. Do you try and eke it out to the end of the stint? Do you try and eke it out until the 20s? Or do you come in for the intermediate tires straight away and hope that it continues to rain, right? Because if the rain comes on and then snaps off again and it gets to lap 20 and everyone who was on the softs now pits for the mediums and all of a sudden you're the only guy on the intermediate tires, then you're in a really awkward spot. Softs, inters, that would be great. That would be great. But also like softs, inters, mediums with that second stint. Like a few people decide to go on the mediums, a few people decide to go onto the inters because the rain hasn't quite fully come yet and they don't know whether it's going to continue or not. I don't know. I'd like that, where the rain is like coming, but they don't know how much and how it will hit the track. Hi, James. Love your vids and live streams. Thank you so much. Finding my voice soothing. Appreciate it. Wish Cap actually released 2 episodes per week. Never say never. I mean, we do technically release 2 episodes a week. We release a podcast and a Patreon special. But at the moment, we're all... Well, I suppose Mr. V and Dan are full-time YouTube. I'm like in between, where I'm starting to transition and will be full-time YouTube sort of very, very soon. And then Duck is still studying, Pulse is still working and studying. Like, we're all kind of a little bit over the place. I feel like if Crash Happy became the main income for all 5 of us, I mean, we could definitely do 2 podcasts a week. Do what P1 do, right? And just do a podcast whenever something happens. When will Crash Happy be on Twitch so we can watch the pre-race? I just need to sit down and sort that out. It's a good point. I could put it on my Twitch, to be fair. So the way that Crash Happy streams at the moment is a little bit awkward because we don't have a way of easily transitioning from one stream to the next. So I'll have to work it out. I could just stream the Crash Happy pre-race on my Twitch, but then I also don't feel like the other guys... I'd have to talk to them about it, right? Because then any donations that come onto my channel rather than onto Crash Happy and things like that. What races will they add to make up for Bahrain and Saudi? At the moment, it doesn't look like they'll add any. I know that Saudi Arabia is being talked about right at the end of the season, but I don't think they'll add any races. I think it'd be more interesting to see if Abu Dhabi and Qatar cannot take place, because we've basically been told that when it comes to Abu Dhabi and Qatar, Formula One have apparently got a plan in place that if they have to cancel those 2 races, there will be a different season finale ready to go. But then at the same time, you know, I don't want to say I want to see Qatar and Abu Dhabi replaced, because I don't like that. The backlash, the reasoning behind that would be way worse than 2 Formula One races. But I would also be interested to see like what races would take Abu Dhabi and Qatar's place. Red flag for Indy. Oh, I was thinking of keeping the Indy. I can't have IndyCar up and Formula One up because I'd just be all over the place. But do keep me posted on IndyCar because Pato O'Ward was running fairly well. Is the red flag going to cause that problem? Would love Twitch. Yeah. Okay. I'll sort out the Twitch for Crash Happy. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Can Piastri get a podium? Certainly. Yeah, I mean, he's starting in 4th place, and I think the McLaren car will be fairly decent. I think the McLaren car will be better than I was going to say the Ferraris and Red Bulls. Will definitely be better than the Red Bulls. I think Ferrari could certainly give McLaren a run for their money. I think the Mercedes cars will just be the best, though. So, best chance scenario for Piastri to get a podium, like George Russell and Kimi Antonelli just wipe each other out, because then he would most definitely get a podium. Other than that, he does then have to sort of overcome Lando Norris to get into the podium place as Oscar Piastri. I think that might be a little bit trickier. You never know. 8 laps left to go in the Indy. Oh, keep me posted. Keep me posted. Can Max get a win? No. Well, no, if it was a dry race, but it's not a dry race. It's not a dry race, is it? You know, it is a weird, awkward race where it's like dry-ish, could go wet later, could get drier later. No one really knows, so. Good evening, Antonio. How's it going? Gonna ask about the Switch situation. I'll get the Switch sorted. Let me write it down. Let me write it down. And then I'll see what I can do. I suppose, just to be fair, with Twitch, I can just get a quick stream key and set that up for you. I'll sort it. Let's do a race on F125. I mean, we might have to. If it rains too much and we get a Spa 2021 style situation, or even a Canada, 2011 situation, then we certainly could have to find some extra entertainment, as it were. Oh, here we go. The tyres have come through. Russell and Antonelli on soft compound tyres. Intermediates for Lando and Piastri. Intermediates for the 2 McLaren cars. Hamilton on softs, Verstappen on softs, Hadjar on softs, Leclerc softs, mediums for Lindblad and Colapinto. Hulkenberg on the intermediate tyres as well. I suppose Hulkenberg makes sense, right? Because Hulkenberg is in 11th place and therefore outside of the points, so can just gamble on it. You know, if he loses, he wasn't in the points anyway. If he wins and it is intermediate tyres, then all of a sudden he could be in a really, really solid position for Nico Hulkenberg. Then continuing down, Lawson on the medium tyres, Bortoletto following his teammate. Makes sense that both the Audis have kind of done the same. Or does it make sense that both the Audis have done the same thing? I suppose if they think that's the best choice, then Bortoletto kind of following suit. Gasly starting 14th on the medium, Sainz on the intermediate tyres. Then it's softs for the Hasses, softs for Albon and Alonso, intermediates for the Cadillacs. It's a real mix. Proper mix of tyres right now. We'll have to wait and see if they are the full confirmed tyres when they go on the formation lap, because the teams do have a minute or so to change the tyres if they really want to. But they should be the tyres that we see at the beginning of this Grand Prix. And also, we are expecting that this race is going to start with a standing start. I haven't seen anywhere that they are deciding to do a rolling start instead of a standing start. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. What could be, I mean, the races already this season have been very, very entertaining, but what could be an even more entertaining race for this 2026 season? Hello, Canada. I'm very excited now. Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari starting on the soft compound tyre. Oh, they've still got the tyre blankets on the McLaren cars, so I wanted to see if the green ring was really there, but I couldn't quite see. Kimi Antonelli starting second on the grid. For the first time in a while, Kimi Antonelli starting second on the grid. 3 pole positions in a row previous to this weekend. But George Russell has made it 3 Canadian Grand Prix in a row that he has started on the front row of the grid. Shall we move over to the full race display? Wrong button. There we go. Some investigations for Bortoletto, Gasly, and Hadjar failing to follow race director's instructions, maximum delta time. Interesting. That would have been on the lap to the grid that they didn't follow the time. Be interesting to see what happens from there. I don't think anything really. Explain the difference between a standing and rolling start. So standing start is on the grid as we are right now, 22 cars behind their pit boxes. A rolling start would be behind the safety car. So it would play out pretty much exactly the same as a safety car restart. So when we see all of the cars follow the safety car around for a lap, the safety car then comes in and the racing starts with the cars already rolling, already moving, as opposed to being stationary on the grid. Thank you, by the way, to all the new subs. Just saw loads of subs come through there, by the way. If you have got Amazon Prime, you can subscribe over on Twitch completely and utterly for free. You can become a member of the channel over on YouTube as well. You can support Crash Happy through the Crash Happy Patreon. There are so many incredible ways that you can support the channel and help us guys out to basically make this insane dream come true of being Formula One content creators and just being able to talk about Formula One with you guys, which is just absolutely incredible. I'll say it over and over again. Map is frozen. Not for me, but maybe just hit a little restart on yourself. Asking James for a sim until James notices me. I would if I could magic a sim racing setup for you, I really would. But I have just moved house, so I've got zero money available. I've got zero liquid cash available to give to you right now. It's a little bit of rain still coming down though, and it is just awkward though because the rain is sort of sticking in the air. And therefore, those guys on the soft compound tires will be, well, just hoping that the wind blows that away sooner rather than later. Also, Piastri says it feels like he's floating around quite a bit on these tires already. So Piastri maybe not too happy with the intermediate choice from the McLaren team. He'll be very happy with the intermediate choice if it does start raining a little bit heavier soon. We have seen George Russell then take his spot on the grid. Oscar Piastri on board with the McLaren. It is intermediate tires for the two McLaren cars. It is absolutely spot on. And then the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton also just taking his spot as well. Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar following closely by. Leclerc, Lindblad, and Colapinto round out the drivers who are starting in the point-scoring places. Has to be said, Lindblad and Colapinto have been the standout performers from the midfield. They're well deserving of those points if they manage to finish the race where they're starting. But there are 70 laps between then and now as we see the final few cars taking their spots on the grid. Lance Stroll makes his way into the pit lane. 21 cars on the grid then. And a mix of tyres at the front of the grid. 5 red lights now between us and the start of this race as the green flag is waved. We get to see those cars building up the turbo. 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we are on the way here in Canada. No, we are not. It's a very, very long start. Is it lights out and away we go? The lights took absolutely forever. Race control, extra formation lap. Whoa. What on earth happened there? There was something wrong with the start procedure. And Lindblad won't go into gear now. Lindblad is stuck. Can't get it into gear. He's in neutral on the grid and is a sitting duck. There is an extra formation lap. That is going to reduce the race by 1 lap as well, I should say. So 69 laps of racing between us and the end of this Grand Prix. An extra formation lap to the grid. It just looked like the lights got stuck. Like literally 5 red lights. And I was ready for it to go. And then I thought it went off, but it didn't. And it just stayed on for a little while longer. And there we are. Oh, and that's a real shame. Arvid Lindblad's car now being pushed backwards. And Kimi Antonelli did stutter forward, so we'll see if that is investigated. I mean, considering how long the lights were on, and a little mistake, I imagine, would happen. And Piastri on the radio saying that he feels the rain might have stopped. And, ooh. Piastri on the radio saying, shall we just box? Shall we just get slick tires on that car? It's not a terrible idea from Oscar Piastri if he really does think the intermediate tires are the worst choice. Arvid Lindblad's car being pushed all the way backwards down the grid, and this is going to be really awkward as the cars are trying to take their positions. Arvid Lindblad's car in the way, effectively. We might see a third formation lap here, I feel. Because they've got to get Arvid Lindblad's car off the track before they get going with racing. Piastri and Norris did not decide to pit, by the way. The two McLaren cars continued on, so they are still on the intermediate tyres and are on the grid where they should be. Hamilton and Verstappen have also taken their places. Just watching Nico Hülkenberg actually slot into position. Arvid Lindblad's car has now been pushed far enough backwards that it's not in any of the grid slots that would be taken up by the cars at the start of this race. But they are having to push the car literally all the way to the pit entrance. So starting from 9th place is quite a long way for the marshals to have to push that car all the way to the back of the track. And let's see then. We have got all the cars lined up on the grid once again. We're now down to 20 cars on the grid. And there is the green flag being waved. Are we finally going to see a start to this Canadian Grand Prix? Or are we going to see another formation lap? No. The green flag has not been waved, and we're going to get another formation lap. Another formation lap, lad. Third formation lap. This time's the time, I promise you. I promise you, this one's the one. We're gonna get a racing lap at some point. But we've got another formation lap. What is the record for like the number of formation laps at the start of a Formula One Grand Prix? Am I gonna have to make a short on this? How many formation laps is too many formation laps? In fact, I'm going to write that down. They did a lot of Belgium 2021. No, because they counted. They were under the safety car. They were racing laps. These are formation laps. There's no safety car involved. George Russell is running the pack around. These are proper formation laps. They're not even safety car laps. Casually found a new video idea. That's literally how my video ideas come to me. Is I often am watching a race or watching something and I go, I wonder what that is. Piastri on the radio making a fairly decent point. If we pit now, we'll have warm tyres. Piastri seems to really want to come into the pits though. And Piastri does go around turn 13, so is going to start once again. I think Piastri's just saying to the team, look, we chose wrong, lads. And trying to get into the pits as sooner rather than later, but Piastri not actually doing it. And Arvid Lindblad, that is a real shame, because Arvid Lindblad has been brilliant this weekend. Like, absolutely brilliant. And he's now in the pits and doesn't look like he'll be taking part. I mean, he could rejoin the race. We saw that yesterday during the sprint. You are allowed to peel into the pits, go into the garage and come back out again, but obviously won't be in a very competitive position if he does have to decide to, or does decide to rejoin the race. 68 laps of racing then in front of us here at Canada. George Russell has taken his grid slot once again. Again is pointing to the right-hand side of the track to cover off Kimi Antonelli in the run down towards turn 1. 20 cars on the grid. It's almost like 2025. Why did we need the extra 2? There's only 20, but there is Lance Stroll in the pit lane ready to run, and Arvid Lindblad, unfortunately, in the garage now. But we do have 5 red lights. They're illuminating once again. And are we going to finally get some racing laps here in Canada? We are indeed. And it's a really quick start from Lando Norris, who's got right around the inside of George Russell. Lando Norris leads. Lando Norris straight through into first place. Oscar Piastri being run wide by George Russell. Antonelli actually had the better of the 2 Mercedes starts. Mercedes still running second and third, though, with Kimi Antonelli second and George Russell now third. Hamilton has been able to jump up in front of Piastri into fourth place. Piastri now down to fifth. Verstappen sixth. Leclerc has jumped up into seventh ahead of Hadjar. And Colapinto, obviously gaining that place, has remained in ninth spot. Gasly with a really big lockup from the Frenchman as he's fighting for position with Gabriel Bortoleto, but has held on to 13th place for now. Lando with an absolutely stonking start from the McLaren team and into a really quick first lap from Lando Norris as well. Disappeared up the road from Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli already 1.2 seconds adrift. That is incredible from Lando Norris, but how long are those intermediate tyres going to be able to go on for? As much as he's got the run at turn 1, the intermediate tyres are not going to hold on very long if it doesn't wet up a little bit around this Canadian Grand Prix circuit, as Oscar Piastri is finding out as he's fighting with Max Verstappen, decides to pit. Piastri does pit then, and to be honest, Piastri wanted to pit 2 laps ago, and so makes sense that Piastri has come in and decided to change those tyres. He thinks they made the mistake of going onto those intermediate tyres in the first place. Norris does still lead, though. Lando Norris up 2 positions into first place. Antonelli is gaining now on Lando Norris once again. They're 3 abreast through the first couple of corners. And we are really having a squabble between Gasly and the Haas and the Audi. Bortoleto and Ocon getting right in between one another. Fernando Alonso is actually up into 12th place in the Aston Martin car. And a real battle in the midfield pack. Nico Hülkenberg has obviously gained that place into 10th spot to get into the points. But even outside of the points, Alonso, Bortoleto, Gasly, Ocon having a real tussle with one another for 12th place and backwards. Alex Albon has just made a move on Valtteri Bottas, and Bottas now down into 19th place. Piastri has come out of the pits, obviously right at the back of the pack, but we'll see what kind of pace he has got on those medium compound tyres. Lando Norris is getting the call, though, box, which means Antonelli is going to take the lead of this Grand Prix. Decides to not make a move into turn 13 because he knows he's going to inherit the lead of the race anyway. He's got to have a little bit of a look in his mirrors as George Russell is right underneath the rear wing. George Russell actually peels to the right-hand side. We're going to see the 2 Mercedes cars side by side into turn 1, and Antonelli holds on to the position as Lewis Hamilton now has a little sneaky look up the inside of turn 2, and Hamilton has to remain in 3rd spot for now. Hülkenberg and Bortoleto also pits. They started on the intermediate tyres as well. Perez into the pits, I would imagine, too, although Valtteri Bottas continued on those intermediate tyres. Will Lando Norris come out ahead of his teammate? Yes, he will indeed. Lando Norris actually ahead of Valtteri Bottas in the run. He's come out in 14th place as Lando Norris, so a long way to go for him in this Grand Prix. Antonelli, though, leading this Grand Prix from George Russell. Russell has been the driver that got pole position yesterday, but Antonelli lost that pole position streak. Can he continue his win streak? Antonelli 3 in a row prior to this afternoon in Canada and is now looking for his 4th win on the bounce. Lewis Hamilton is also closing into the back of George Russell. The Ferrari in a straight line, not looking as slow as I was expecting, and actually Lewis Hamilton gaining on George Russell. Very nice indeed if you're a Scuderia fan. Hamilton looking like another podium at play. Of course, Hamilton has won here in Canada 7 times before, is joint with Michael Schumacher in terms of the driver that has won here in Canada the most. could put himself top of that tree if he manages to get himself around George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Valtteri Bottas has indeed pitted now, so everybody who started on the intermediate tyre has now come in and pitted. Oscar Piastri just dealing with the back markers. He now catches up to the back of Lance Stroll, and Lando Norris is going straight over the chicane. Lando is getting very ballsy indeed. And Lando Norris being told over the radio maybe to just calm it down a touch because they could have to go very, very long on this stint on the medium compound tyres. I think him just wanting to get back towards the point scoring places as soon as possible because there's quite a gap now developing between the midfield cars and the front 6 runners. You look at where Isaac Hadjar is in 6th place versus Colapinto, already 5 seconds adrift of the top teams. It really is a Formula 1, Formula 1.5 that we've got this season. Those top 4 teams are just absolutely head and shoulders above the rest of the pack at the beginning of this season. As we have a look at Pierre Gasly, taking a glance at the rear wing of Ollie Behrman and actually having to duck out of that and didn't actually make the chicane in the end. Pierre Gasly is running in 10th spot, Pierre Gasly, but has actually just let Fernando Alonso by. So Fernando Alonso now back up into 10th place in a point-scoring position on the cards for Aston Martin as it stands. Max Verstappen has just put in the fastest lap of anybody with a 1:17.8. Only a tenth of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton, but quicker nonetheless. We have got all of those guys at the front of the pack inside boost range of one another. It's Charles Leclerc, the first driver who is more than a second adrift of the cars in front of him. And Isaac Hadjar not really causing Charles Leclerc any problems either. So it's a real top 4 battle that we've got. Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen. What does Russell do here? How does he play this game against his teammate? He knows that Antonelli is not going to give the position to him very easily. We saw he is very racy indeed when it comes to holding on to positions and even fighting for positions in the sprint race yesterday. George Russell now behind his teammate and continues to be so as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. To round it out then, Hamilton is in 3rd place, Verstappen 4th, Charles Leclerc 5th. We then have Hadjar, Colapinto, Lawson, Behrman and Alonso inside of the points scoring places. Interesting that Gasly, Ocon, Albon are also within touching distance though. Gasly is only half a second adrift of Alonso, was looking at the back of Ollie Behrman's car. But Pierre Gasly unable to make that move and then ended up losing the place to the Aston Martin. Albon is within boost range of Ocon. And Lando Norris, half a second adrift of Albon as well now. It was an absolutely electric start from Lando Norris. A shame he's just on the wrong tyre. Because George Russell gets a little bit bogged down, but moves across to cover Kimi Antonelli. And in covering Kimi Antonelli's also then got... and there comes George Russell. Oh, and Antonelli, a big lock-up and almost wipes out his teammate. Goodness gracious me. George Russell takes the lead of this Grand Prix down towards turn 13, but that was almost an absolute disaster for the Mercedes team. Kimi Antonelli, evasive maneuvers having to be taken. George Russell goes round the outside as they go down towards turn 13, has the place pretty comfortably ahead of his teammate. Then Antonelli just completely outbrakes himself and almost veers into the back of his teammate. Let's see that again. George Russell pulls to the left-hand side of the track, gets the place pretty comfortably. Antonelli then gets right under the rear wing of George Russell. Big lockup on the front left of Kimi Antonelli. George Russell probably breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief that his teammate didn't just ram into the back of him there. Russell, though, does take the lead of the race once again, and Antonelli's tyres are going to be a little bit worse for wear now. He's a second and a half adrift of his teammate and now has to be a little bit worried of Lewis Hamilton behind. Hamilton will be within boost range where Kimi Antonelli will not. Max Verstappen also waiting in the wings just in case. It's getting very tasty indeed. Charles Leclerc still in 5th, but a fair distance behind now. 2.5 seconds, the gap between Verstappen and Leclerc. Charles just really not clicking with the Ferrari this weekend, and even in race trim, just cannot seem to get that Scuderia car around the track as quickly as the 4 cars in front of him. Isaac Hadjar closing into the back of Charles Leclerc, now 1.9 seconds the gap, but still not threatening at any point so far, the Frenchman. Colapinto holding on to 7th and actually has a fairly decent 2-second gap to Liam Lawson behind. Behrman is then 7 seconds adrift. Gasly another 1.4 seconds behind. And Lando Norris has made his way past Alex Albon, is trying to fight his way back through the midfield. Is in 12th place now, Lando Norris. And Oscar Piastri down in 14th too, but Oscar Piastri 1.4 seconds behind Alex Albon. And nobody in the midfield really making it very easy for the McLaren drivers to get past. So you have to just say, a real mess up from the McLaren team, starting on the complete wrong tyre in comparison to everybody else. And now on the medium compound tyre, Norris has been told he's having to go very, very long indeed. As we now see Alex Albon trying to make a move on Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris has been able to get up into 11th place. And Alex Albon is also going to jump up into 12th. Fernando Alonso suddenly falling like a stone as Max Verstappen has made a move on Lewis Hamilton and is now up into 3rd spot. So Max Verstappen looking like a podium place could be on the cards after McLaren have absolutely had a nightmare start. And Lewis Hamilton, maybe a little mistake from the 7-time winner of the Canadian Grand Prix, has allowed Max Verstappen to get past him. Oscar Piastri now moves past as well. And Hamilton on the radio, got no power. Issues again for Lewis Hamilton when it comes to the setup of that power unit and being able to really fight with the drivers around him. Hamilton now within boost range of Verstappen, and Verstappen doesn't have boost to Kimi Antonelli ahead either, so could be interested to see if Hamilton can maybe strike back at Verstappen. We know that the power unit inside of the Red Bull car is very good, though. Verstappen looking like he could be on for his podium place after all. We are looking at lap 10 of this Grand Prix with George Russell leading. He was on pole position, lost that lead to Antonelli briefly, but has taken it back. Max Verstappen in 3rd place. Hamilton is in 4th. Charles Leclerc 5th. Isaac Hadjar 6th. Franco Colapinto in 7th place. Best of the rest of the midfield. Lawson 8th. Behrman 9th. And Gasly rounding out the point scoring places. Although you will have noticed neither of the McLarens inside the top 10 at the moment. Lando Norris 1 second behind Pierre Gasly and soon to be within boost range of the Alpine. Lando Norris was leading this Grand Prix as they came out of turn 2 and is now all the way back down in P11, sorry. Valtteri Bottas already being lapped. We are 10 laps into this Grand Prix and Valtteri Bottas already having to get out of the way of the 2 Mercedes cars as they make their way round turn 10. Lewis Hamilton tries his best to stay with Max Verstappen. He's within boost range still, but not really able to do anything about getting back ahead of Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas has come into the pits once again. That's the 2nd pit stop for Valtteri Bottas. Wonder if there was maybe a little problem inside of that Cadillac car, and that might be the end of Valtteri Bottas's weekend. Oh no, he's coming back out, Valtteri Bottas, so a pit stop and a little change for Valtteri Bottas. Clearly just running some interesting ideas down at Cadillac. Here comes Lando Norris closing in on the back of Pierre Gasly. Always puts me off that the Alpine has got that yellow back to it. It does look like a Renault from behind because you just see the yellow rear wing and the yellow cover. But then obviously as soon as you see it from any other angle, you're like, oh yeah, it is blue and pink. It's an Alpine. Just the yellow sponsor on the back of that car. Gasly, though, being closed in on by Lando Norris. Verstappen and Hamilton are falling a little bit behind the Mercedes cars as expected, the Mercedes team do look like the absolutely dominant car around here. And Gasly is actually having a little move on Ollie Behrman. Lando Norris trying not to get caught up in this chaos, as Lando Norris probably trying to make a move on Behrman as well as they go through turn 10. And Gasly and Norris have both been able to jump in front of Ollie Behrman there. Behrman caught out by Gasly and then also left the door open to Lando Norris. Will he be able to come back at the McLaren car as they go down towards turn 13? I don't think so. George Russell sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as Lando Norris once again looks to try and make a maneuver past Pierre Gasly. Had to try and take him and does take him, and Lando Norris up to P9 as they make their way through turn 1. Alex Albon also closing into the back of Ollie Behrman. Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris's teammate, down in P13. So looks like Oscar Piastri is in for an even more awkward afternoon than his teammate, but both of the McLarens will be ruining the pace that they've clearly got. And George Russell looking at Kimi Antonelli, and Antonelli does make a little move into the hairpin, does take the lead briefly, but George Russell retakes that lead back from his teammate. It is not done and dusted between these two Mercedes cars as of yet. Antonelli has a little look at his teammate down towards turn 1. Comes up the inside of turn 1. Will he be able to stick it around the outside of turn 2? Can't do it this time around. It's right under the rear wing of George Russell and has to settle for second place for now. Antonelli second to George Russell still, but right underneath the rear wing. There is a yellow flag being waved as Alonso and Ocon making their way through. Oh, it's Alex Albon. Alex Albon at turn 11 has come to a stop. Not sure what's happened there for Alex Albon. As of yet, we're still watching the battle between the two Mercedes cars as Antonelli and Russell are fighting their way through the middle sector. Gonna have to calm it down a touch now as they enter the yellow flag zones. And we will see where Alex Albon is. Where is Alex Albon? Maybe we won't see where Alex Albon is. I didn't see him there. Did anybody else? And Oscar Piastri already into the pits for another set of tyres. Oh, Oscar Piastri had a moment with Alex Albon. That's what it was, because they are putting a new front wing on Oscar Piastri's car. So Piastri and Albon must have come into a collision. We'll see if we get a replay of that. But we have got Russell and Antonelli still leading. Oscar Piastri now down in 19th place and all the way at the back of the pack once again. It's just an absolute nightmare afternoon for Oscar Piastri. Now, obviously, starting on the intermediate tyre was by far and away the worst choice they could have made. But then also having an incident with Alex Albon, it's just turned what was looking like an absolutely catastrophic race into the worst race that he's had in a very long time. Big damage on the Williams, though, of Alex Albon's car by the looks of things. Still yellow flags being waved at turn 10. And can watch a little bit of a replay of Oscar Piastri. Tries to go up the inside. Oh, and just slams into the side of Alex Albon. Big mistake from Oscar Piastri. There's nothing that Alex Albon could have done there. Oscar Piastri completely and utterly to blame. I think Piastri might end up with a penalty for that as well, just to add insult to injury. But big lockup from Piastri and just smashes into the side of Alex Albon's Williams. And that is the end of Alex Albon's race, who was looking fairly decent in the midfield. Could have certainly ended up with a point scoring position. Was fighting with Alonso and Behrman and a kind of mix of cars that is sitting just outside of the point scoring places for now. But there's still a long way to go with 15 laps completed of this Grand Prix and 54 left on the circuit. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli fighting once again. Antonelli's kind of cooled off while the yellow flags were being waved, but is now right underneath the rear wing of his teammate once more. When is the next opportunity for Antonelli to really go for it? Bad week for Alex Albon. Yeah, really bad week for Alex Albon. having a tough time of it. Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz, the two Spaniards, actually having a little battle down towards turn 1. Alonso came out on top of it for now. Alonso's 12th, Sainz 13th, and Ocon has also joined that party too. Little trio of cars fighting for 12th place. Antonelli is right underneath the rear wing of George Russell as they make their way down the back straight. Antonelli looking at his teammate once again into turn 1. Nowhere near as close as he was a few laps ago. Antonelli second to George Russell then. Max Verstappen has actually been holding on to 3rd place really comfortably. Hamilton is in 4th place now behind the Red Bull and isn't able to get within striking distance. He's got that extra boost to his car, but isn't able to get that advantage and get in front of Verstappen or even alongside of Verstappen in any way. Charles Leclerc running around completely and utterly on his own in 5th. Has now got Hadjar for company. Hadjar 0.6 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Leclerc was probably looking at a fairly comfortable, easy-going race, but now Hadjar could... Oh... And it's a reliability problem for Lando Norris now. My God, what is happening at McLaren this weekend? It is an absolutely catastrophic race for both drivers now. Intermediate tyres, Piastri smashes into somebody. Lando Norris now has a problem as well where he has to come into the pits. So Norris is now down in 14th again. Oh my God. Did Piastri try dive bombing Albon? Pretty much, yeah. And Piastri is certainly getting investigated and will very likely get a penalty for that, I would imagine. Nico Hülkenberg already with a 10-second time penalty as well. Antonelli, though, closing into the back of George Russell once more, is still half a second adrift. And the McLaren's just having an absolute nightmare afternoon in every single possible way. Watching a little onboard of Max Verstappen's rear wing. Lewis Hamilton will still be in his wing mirrors. He'll still be well aware that Lewis Hamilton is there. But Hamilton not really able to get within touching distance of Verstappen. Nico Hülkenberg has actually just made his way past Lando Norris. Oh, and Antonelli locks up. And Antonelli goes for a little maneuver and isn't able to do it this time around as they go through the hairpin. But let's catch up with the two Mercedes cars then. Antonelli pulls to the left-hand side of the track. He's going to have momentum over Russell. And Russell is going to have to defend the inside line as they go through turn 13. They're going to be side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel. And Antonelli has to concede as he is on the outside of the corner. George Russell holds on to the lead for now. But they were side-by-side. And Antonelli just deciding not to wipe out his teammate and instead settle for second place for now. Oscar Piastri just moved past Esteban Ocon. And it is not looking fun for Lando Norris. As I say, Lando Norris has just dropped behind Nico Hülkenberg and is struggling inside that McLaren. Oscar Piastri has already been lapped 18 laps into this Grand Prix. And Antonelli and Russell will be thinking about this and going, well, actually, Verstappen is 4.3 seconds adrift. You know, I don't think Verstappen is really a worry for Kimi Antonelli at this point. They can have a few battles before Verstappen gets the opportunity to close in on a possible victory. Antonelli picks up the slipstream. Nowhere near as close as he was last time around. They went down to turn 13, but holds position for now. George Russell darting around trying to break that slipstream that Kimi Antonelli has behind, and Antonelli not going for move this time around as they make their way down towards turn 1. It is Russell, Antonelli, Verstappen, our podium places at the moment. If I could ask everybody who's new, maybe hit that subscribe button. That'd be absolutely amazing. If you're watching over on Twitch, hit that follow button. Really does help out the channel, completely and utterly free for you. Doesn't cost you a penny. Max Verstappen then, 5 seconds adrift of the leaders. Hamilton 4th, Leclerc still 5th. Hadjar was closing in, is within boost ranges, Isaac Hadjar. Certainly not an easy race for Charles Leclerc at this point. Needs to keep an eye on the Frenchman, make sure that he doesn't give him an opportunity to have a run at the back of the Scuderia car. But then Hadjar does know he's got a 20-second gap to Colapinto behind. Like, the front 6 are in a completely different stratosphere to everybody else behind. Liam Lawson is running inside of the point scoring places in 8th, but does have an investigation over him. That incident involving him and Hulkenberg, starting procedure infringement. Obviously, we got the speeding in the pit lane Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg under investigation for another time as well. Not looking good if you're a Nico Hulkenberg fan. Although he's running in 12th place, he's got a few penalties now hanging over his head. Gabriel Bortoletto pits for the other Audi car. Russell and Antonelli now making their way around towards that final sector once again. Fernando Alonso now ahead of the 2 Mercedes cars. Will have to move out of the way and be lapped. So Fernando Alonso running in 14th place has been lapped 20 laps into this Grand Prix. Russell and Antonelli absolutely pushing it to the limits inside of that Mercedes car. It'll be interesting to see what kind of strategies they pull out as well. They have now both completed 20 laps on those soft compound tyres, and they were slightly scrubbed sets at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Russell's done 22 laps on his, 23 laps completed on Kimi Antonelli's soft compound tyres. As Antonelli now looks at the back of George Russell's car once again and isn't able to do it. Can he have a look down towards turn 1? Not this time around. George Russell keeps the lead once again as we enter the second sector of lap 21 of this Grand Prix. And interesting that Hamilton now looking actually ever closer to Max Verstappen's rear wing. Half a second, but just hasn't quite been able to close into a proper striking distance yet, has Lewis Hamilton, but certainly there nonetheless. Then we've got Isaac Hadjar in behind Charles Leclerc. Keeping an eye on Kimi Antonelli, though, as they come down towards the hairpin once again. Antonelli does look a little bit closer this time around. It's 0.4 of a second behind. And they are coming up to Lando Norris now in front of them. Lando Norris will get some blue flags to say that he is... Oh, as Kimi Antonelli does have a little look. George Russell moves to the right-hand side of the track to try and cover off Kimi Antonelli. And Antonelli has to actually sort of move out of the way of his own teammate. Hulkenberg now comes into the pits. Antonelli, though, wants to have a little look at George Russell down towards turn 1. Does he? He isn't able to get within striking distance. And George Russell able to hold Antonelli for at least another lap for now, or at least another few corners. Antonelli actually right underneath the rear wing of George Russell once again. Will he decide to go for a maneuver somewhere a little bit different? Ocon now being overtaken by Fernando Alonso. Although... Oh no, sorry, Ocon getting that place back from Fernando as he made his way out of the pits. Here we are then, Antonelli keeping an eye on it. They're coming up to the back of Valtteri Bottas, who needs to get out of the way and is actually going to get lapped for the second time this Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas. Oh, and Hamilton's gone straight on at the chicane. Max Verstappen able to escape away from the back. Oh, that is a big mistake from Lewis Hamilton through turn 8 and has allowed Max Verstappen to just disappear into the distance. Here comes Kimi Antonelli, though, on his teammate. And Antonelli's going to have to be a little bit careful because there's Valtteri Bottas there as well. And Antonelli has actually kind of used Valtteri Bottas to his advantage. George Russell has to concede the place. And Antonelli moves up into leading this Grand Prix once again. That was a great move from the young Italian. Moved to the left-hand side of the track, had the run out of turn 10 against his teammate, and then Bottas was on the right-hand side of the track. Nothing Bottas could do. He was trying to get out of the way of the two Mercedes cars, but they were 3 abreast at one point. Bottas obviously not in the fight, but just causing George Russell a little bit of an issue and allowed Antonelli that extra little bit of room to get past. Brilliant maneuver from Kimi Antonelli and an excellent use of Valtteri Bottas to get past his teammate. Now Lando Norris is ahead, and Norris obviously will have at least similar pace to the two Mercedes cars, so won't be as big of a hindrance, hopefully, that Valtteri Bottas sort of found himself to be. Still 46 laps left to go, 45 once they finish this final sector. A long way to run. And it was actually a little mistake from George Russell. He went wide at turn 10, and that's what allowed Kimi Antonelli the run at his teammate. George Russell then gets to the right-hand side of the track, trying to defend the inside line, but obviously doesn't see the fact that Valtteri Bottas is there ahead of him. Lando Norris peels to the inside and moves out of the way, so Lando Norris has now been lapped. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting pretty bad. And Oscar Piastri given a 10-second penalty. You know, I said it's been pretty bad. It's chaos. It's the worst weekend from McLaren that we have seen in a really long time. Goodness gracious me. Well, I suppose they did both get disqualified in Vegas. At least they're still running at this point. Maybe they'll get to the end and they'll get disqualified anyway. It is an fantastic race in between the two Mercedes cars, and Antonelli leads the two Mercedes for now. It's a very, very tight race between the two of them. Goodness me. Wow. I mean, if you're not enjoying this, I don't know what more I can offer. The two Mercedes cars fighting for the lead, going side by side. They're in each other's pockets. And Antonelli is leading the two for now, as I say. Goodness me. Did he gain? Well, gonna have to give that position back. Oh, I didn't see that. Antonelli does give the position back to George Russell. But I thought he was ahead, to be fair. I thought he died. There we go. Kimi Antonelli gives the position back to George Russell then. Russell back up to the top spot. And Kimi Antonelli not very happy about it because he goes for a move straight away. The hairpin is right underneath the rear wing of his teammate once again. It is going to be very tight between the two Mercedes once more. George Russell goes to the right-hand side of the track. Kimi Antonelli to the left. Is Kimi Antonelli going to go for it now? Isn't able to get enough alongside his teammate to pressure him and is into second place, but Antonelli is very, very racy all of a sudden and will be very frustrated that he thought he should still be leading this Grand Prix. George Russell is our race leader once again, though. How long will it be until Antonelli strikes once more? Behind that, by the way, we've still got Max Verstappen in third place, doing a very good job, and now has a 5-second gap to Lewis Hamilton after Hamilton made the mistake going through turn 8. So Verstappen looking like a really comfortable podium is on the cards. George Russell on the radio. Being told on the radio and having a little discussion about Kimi Antonelli. Not so happy with how and where Kimi Antonelli gave that position back, I don't think, was George Russell, but is back in the lead once again. Can't really complain too much, can George Russell, at this point. Coming through the final chicane and is under pressure from Antonelli once more, but Antonelli nowhere near as close as he was last lap. So, well, we were talking about Hamilton and Leclerc behind. Leclerc is actually closing in on his teammate. Leclerc now 2.4 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton might have a little bit of damage to that Ferrari car. We don't know what happened there at turn 8. We just know that he went over the grass and went bounding across it. We actually have Fernando Alonso peeling into the pits and retiring from the Grand Prix as well. So Alonso joins Albon and Lindblad as being out of this Grand Prix. Lindblad is a real shame. Lindblad looked really good this weekend and just having a problem at the start of the race. The car being locked in neutral, couldn't get it into gear and then had to wheel that car back into the garage. The Racing Bull in a really good place as well. Shame for Lindblad. Real shame for Lindblad. But let's focus back on Russell and Antonelli once again as they are within half a second, as they have always been. Interesting to see where he goes. Doesn't decide to go for it in the final chicane this time around. We've also got the idea that, or the thing that they're going to have to pit sometime soon as well. Antonelli, though, clearly wanting track position nonetheless. And he just isn't quite able to make the move for now. George Russell, though, George's defensive positioning has been fairly decent, to be fair. Whenever Antonelli does go for that kind of move into turn one, George Russell knows where to plant the car so that Kimi Antonelli can't come back at him. And Antonelli looking very good indeed. Not going to give it up anytime soon. As I was saying, though, behind the sort of top six, we have got Leclerc closing in on Hamilton. Hadjar there as well. Hadjar's fallen a slight bit adrift of Charles Leclerc at this point, but is still comfortably inside that top six. They are in a league of their own. Colapinto now 27 seconds adrift. Best of the rest midfield for the Alpine car, though, and a brilliant drive from Colapinto this weekend has to be said as well. Liam Lawson up into 8th place. Gasly is 9th and Behrman in 10th, rounding out the point scoring places. And Behrman actually has an 8.1 second gap to Carlos Sainz behind, and then another 7.9 second gap to Lando Norris. So could be no points for McLaren this weekend, which would be interesting to see. If you are watching the stream for the first time, please do subscribe to the channel. If we could hit the like button as well. I don't know how many likes. Someone let me know in the chat how many likes the stream has got so far. I'm sure we can get those numbers bumped up. It really does help out the channel and is completely and utterly free. If you do want to support the channel monetarily, you can become a member of the channel. You can super chat to your heart's content. You can become a subscriber over on Twitch as well. Really does help out in every single possible way. Gabriel Bortoleto moves past Esteban Ocon into 15th place, if you're keeping an eye on the Brazilian driver. Let's have a little look then. Ferrari better this year if they don't mess up. I mean, they're not looking at a podium place right now. 184 likes. We could definitely bump that up. At least 300 likes has to be the goal, right? We have to try and get it to 300. Here we are then. Kimi Antonelli running around, still behind George Russell. Is he going to have a look this time around? We're getting towards the midpoint of the Grand Prix now, and certainly into the region where the soft compound tyres will start feeling a little bit squirmy underneath those Mercedes cars. Antonelli still wanting to get into that first. Wants track position probably so that he has the better of the pit stops, to be fair, Kimi Antonelli. The strategy playing into his favour. Kimi Antonelli, though, they do look a little bit fresher on Kimi Antonelli's car, which is mad considering Kimi Antonelli's had 2 or 3 times where he has locked up pretty heavily. As George Russell makes a mistake. And George Russell is back. Russell going really slowly. Oh, dear, what's happened to George Russell? Is that going to be George Russell out of the race? And it is indeed. He's come to a stop at the side of the track. Yellow flags being waved. And it's all over for George Russell. There is smoke coming from the cockpit of that Mercedes car. And I'll tell you what, George Russell all of a sudden is out of this Grand Prix, and he is not a happy boy at all. Has launched the headrest, puts the wheel back on the car, makes his way. Oh my goodness, what has happened there for George Russell? And a virtual safety car is deployed. Makes sense for that virtual safety car to come out now. George Russell out of the track. What happened there, though? George Russell was coming down towards turn 6 and turn 7. Just all of a sudden, car just came to a stop. We'll have to wait and see what he says. The car's now unlapping themselves as they go past George Russell's car. Just goes to show George Russell's been stationary, got himself out of the car, walked all the way down and off the track. Still isn't outside of the point scoring places yet. Soon will be, of course. As we have a virtual safety car. Kimi Antonelli, though, leading this Grand Prix and now comfortably leading this Grand Prix. Has a 9-second gap to Max Verstappen behind. Lewis Hamilton is then another 11 seconds behind that still. This is going to be a very comfortable win for Kimi Antonelli as long as, well, nothing like what's happened to George Russell happens to him. We now see a lot of drivers using this opportunity to get their pit stops done. I was literally just saying we might see a few cars come into pits soon, especially those on the soft compound tyres. Now is a perfect opportunity. Pit under the virtual safety car. You don't lose as much time compared to pitting under normal conditions. And Kimi Antonelli does indeed follow those instructions. Into the pits he comes. And those soft compound tyres will be very happy to leave that car, and Kimi Antonelli will certainly want a fresh pair of boots for the rest of this Grand Prix. It's a medium compound tyre, I think, going onto Kimi Antonelli's car, although I was seeing that from a distance, so it could be a hard compound tyre. I'll let you know in a second. Max Verstappen comes into the pits and comes out of the pits with a little bit of vigour, does Max Verstappen. Was a set of medium compound tyres for Antonelli, mediums for Max Verstappen too. Hamilton is into the pits, Leclerc as well into the pits, so Ferrari double stacking. Hadjar has actually come out ahead of Charles Leclerc because of that double stack from Ferrari. So Ferrari have allowed Charles Leclerc to lose position there by double stacking the Ferrari cars, and Leclerc will have had to wait for Lewis Hamilton to get out of the pit box in front of him. Hadjar's gained a position. Frustrating again if you're Charles Leclerc there, isn't it? Nothing they could really do about it. They did need to pit both Ferrari cars under the virtual safety car. It is the best opportunity to pit. But Charles Leclerc now behind Hadjar and will have to overtake once the virtual safety car comes to an end. Here's the George Russell replay then. Let's have a little look on board. Coming down the straight. Just cuts out. Complete sudden loss of power. Tries to drive off the track and just completely comes to a halt. That is so frustrating for George Russell, and a shake of the head, a throw of the headrest. And that is going to be a very, very frustrated George Russell. I can't imagine he's going to be heading to the media pen anytime soon to talk about that one. He is out of this one. He joins Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, and Arvid Lindblad, the drivers that are out of this Grand Prix so far. We've got Antonelli leading, Verstappen now in second place, and Lewis Hamilton has inherited a podium position. We were looking at Hamilton possibly having lost out on the podium place after losing position to Max Verstappen. He's back on the podium once again. Of course, has won here 7 times. Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen's won here 3 times. But Kimi Antonelli looking at his first victory here in Canada ahead of them. Isaac Hadjar, a 4th place finish for Red Bull. Wouldn't be too shabby at all for him. And actually deserves it. I think Isaac Hadjar has had a really good weekend, just sort of plagued by issues here and there. And then a little mistake from him in Q3 yesterday, which was quite frustrating to see. But glad that he's kind of bounced back in the race and actually gained a position on Charles Leclerc. And will obviously gain another position with, well, gains a lot of positions with Norris and Piastri having a nightmare and now George Russell retiring. So Hadjar up 3 positions from where he started this Grand Prix. Verstappen up 4 places with that overtake from Lewis Hamilton. Colapinto's up into 6th place. Really, really good drive from Franco Colapinto. We haven't heard much from the midfield cars, and it's because they're quite separated, really. Colapinto, 29 seconds adrift to Charles Leclerc in 6th place, but also has a 10-second gap to Lawson behind. And then Lawson's not really under that much pressure. Gasly is the next car behind Lawson, but has a couple of midfield cars, or a couple of back markers really, in Ocon and Perez between Lawson and Gasly. Lando Norris has been able to get himself back up into the points scoring places. He's in 9th, but still has a long way to go to catch up to the other midfield cars ahead of him. Carlos Sainz running in the final point scoring position for Williams, and again has a big gap to Behrman behind, an 8-second gap between Sainz and Behrman for that final point scoring place. So we are seeing some really large gaps between a lot of the cars this weekend. Charles Leclerc is within striking distance of Isaac Hadjar and is trying to get past that Red Bull sooner rather than later by the looks of things. Gets right underneath the rear wing of the Red Bull, goes very deep into turn 10, trying to maybe get a little bit of a launch out of turn 10. Here comes Charles Leclerc then. Can he get that position from Isaac Hadjar? Hadjar actually braking really early, or maybe having a problem. Did Hadjar... Ooh, that was very weird. A sudden loss of power from Isaac Hadjar on the straight. And I think that move was a little bit naughty from Isaac Hadjar there. I think he might have to let Charles Leclerc by, or probably pick up a penalty, to be honest with you. Isaac Hadjar. It looked like he brake tested him, to be honest. Like a complete loss of power from Isaac Hadjar as they were making their way down towards turn 13. A really weird and scary moment if you're Charles Leclerc. Leclerc on the radio. That was nearly a huge one. So Charles Leclerc, and he's quite right. Like, Charles Leclerc's still accelerating. Charles Leclerc is absolutely running for it. Thank you, GameStar, for the super chat. Russell put too much pressure on power and hydraulic system due to Antonelli behind. I mean, maybe. But Antonelli was also pushing a massive amount, and Antonelli hasn't had that problem. I think George Russell just a little bit unlucky, but has indeed. Oh, and it is naughty from Hadjar because he gets... Yeah, I think Hadjar will end up getting a penalty for that, to be honest with you. It's a little bit naughty from Isaac Hadjar, and we'll see now if Charles Leclerc gets past this time around anyway. Not this time, down towards turn 13. I think the stewards will certainly be looking at it, and I don't know why the Red Bull team hasn't kind of said to Isaac Hadjar, maybe give that play. But then I suppose if he gives the place, he's not necessarily not going to get the penalty anyway. So maybe does just hold on to the position for now. Charles Leclerc looking the quicker of the two drivers at this moment in time as it stands anyway. Still 33 laps left to go. Fortunately, we've had the battle for the lead taken away from us. George Russell out of this Grand Prix. Was leading, and then behind Antonelli, leading once again. Now out of the Grand Prix altogether. Did Russell crash? No crash. Just an engine or a hydraulic problem. We haven't really heard from him or Mercedes as of yet, but the car just completely cut out on him. He was fighting really hard with Kimi Antonelli, and then all of a sudden, as he was making his way through the middle sector, bang, no power for the Mercedes car. Watch the Indy 500 is finished. It's over. Isaac Hadjar holding on to fourth place ahead of Charles Leclerc, but still looking pretty awkward. Is Isaac Hadjar even under investigation yet? The stewards started looking at that. Surely can't do that. Yeah, he's under investigation. There you go. No, that's an incident involving yellow flags. Okay. We'll see if the stewards do have a little look at that Isaac Hadjar incident. Surprised they haven't yet, because he cuts Charles Leclerc off completely, and yeah. And Lando Norris is caught up to the back of Pierre Gasly and moves past Pierre Gasly. Lando Norris up into 8th. 2 seconds adrift of Liam Lawson now. And then 10 seconds adrift of Colapinto. That'd be an interesting one to see if Lando Norris can kind of, well, should, to be fair, catch up to the back of Colapinto. But if he does, Oscar Piastri is also an interesting case because he is quite a bit quicker than Ollie Behrman, although Behrman has just put in a 16.8, so I take my words back. Piastri comparable with Ollie Behrman. Piastri all the way down in in P12. Ooh, Charles Leclerc having a little look at Isaac Hadjar, not able to do it this time around. And Hamilton, actually, the fastest man out on track at the moment, a 15.2 from Lewis Hamilton in 3rd place. Problem is, he is 5.5 seconds, adrift of Max Verstappen. There's just massive gaps between everybody out on track that you think would be competitive with one another. The only gap that's really interesting is Hadjar and Leclerc, but Leclerc just can't quite get within striking distance once again. Lando Norris is closing into the back of Liam Lawson, but Lawson also has a penalty, I think, or is it under investigation at least? Oh, Hadjar locked up into turn 10. Is this the opportunity for Leclerc? Extra little boost maybe being used. Is he going to move to the left-hand side of the track? Has a little look at Hadjar, but isn't able to do it this time around. Isaac Hadjar under pressure from Leclerc. Is he going to goes to the right-hand side as they go through turn 1? Sweeps up the inside of turn 2, possibly. No, he's alongside Isaac Hadjar as they go through turn 2, but can't quite get it done. And Isaac Hadjar does indeed slam the door shut on Charles Leclerc. Makes his way through turn 3 and turn 4, still ahead of the Monegasque man. Wow, Franco Colapinto. Lucky not to smash into the wall there. Oof. Hit the wall coming out of the pits and has carried on. That would be a real shame if Franco Colapinto loses that 6th place, because he has been absolutely brilliant this weekend. Has to be said, the Argentine driver. Lando Norris now within boost range of Liam Lawson ahead of him. So Lando Norris looking like 7th place will be his very soon. Hamilton is putting in some fast sectors again. This has got to be the opportunity for Charles Leclerc, though. Coming out of turn 10, he's almost underneath the rear wing of the car already. And Charles Leclerc, more boost, more power, gets around the outside, and Charles Leclerc back up into 4th place, where he was before the pit stop. Remember, Isaac Hadjar only inherited that place because of the double pit stop at Ferrari and the slow stop for Charles Leclerc that came from that. Charles Leclerc back to where he would say he deserves to be, in 4th spot. Might also be giving Hadjar that penalty as well, because we look at Hadjar, that incident has now been noted, moving more than once, a change of direction involving car 6. I'll highlight that on your screens. Oh, as Lando Norris, and oh my god, it just gets more miserable. Gearbox or something now goes for Lando Norris, and Norris is out of the race. What have we done? Oh my god, what did we do in a past life in Canada? Jesus Christ. Lando Norris out for another Canadian Grand Prix, 2 in a row. Canadian Grand Prix that Lando Norris will not finish, and comes out of turn 9, and yeah, something just goes completely wrong inside of that McLaren car. Engine's still running, but it's not in gear, and something is not happening the way it should be happening, and peels out to the end of turn 10 and gets himself actually behind the wall, so there won't be any virtual safety cars or safety cars that come from it. But Lando Norris is joining the scrap heap that we've got at the Canadian Grand Prix. Russell, Alonso, Albon, Lindblad already out of this Grand Prix, now joined by Lando Norris. Kimi Antonelli actually nearly has a little fight with Sergio Perez. Not sure if Perez should be fighting with Kimi Antonelli. Maybe just got a little bit confused as he is trying to hold off Esteban Ocon behind, but that's a Mercedes, Sergio. You do have to move out of the way of that one, I'm afraid. Kimi Antonelli lapping Perez. And Antonelli on the radio says it. And I think Perez just got a little bit confused because now Esteban Ocon is making the move past Sergio Perez, and Perez concedes the position to the Haas of Esteban Ocon. I honestly think Perez thought Antonelli was Ocon there. He just defended from him, but then sort of gave up on the defense as soon as. Wow. Perez having a little moment inside the Cadillac car. Interesting one. Hamilton is 4 seconds adrift of Max Verstappen, but is putting in fast laps here, Lewis Hamilton. Setting fastest sector times here and there, clearly finding his pace inside of that Ferrari car. Oh, and Franco Colapinto, that little collision with the wall that we mentioned beforehand, just realised has actually done a little bit of damage to the Alpine's front wing. The front wing end plate on the left-hand side of the car, as Colapinto would see it, has actually come loose. And as long as race control don't think that's dangerous, he should be absolutely fine. But if they do think it's dangerous, then he will come into the pits and have to change that front wing. Does only have a 13-second gap to Lawson, so would fall behind Lawson and Gasly if he does have to pit Franco Colapinto. I think the Alpine team, though, will be fighting with the stewards to say that that is... Oh! And Sergio Perez has hit something as well, as Sergio Perez's front right tyre is, well, almost disconnected from the Cadillac car. And that is going to be Sergio Perez's afternoon completed. Join the scrap heap, Sergio. Sergio now the 6th car to retire from this Grand Prix. Joins Norris, Russell, Alonso, Albon and Lindblad in the pits. And again, towards the point where going to have more cars out of this race than in it. Let's see what happened to Perez. Oh, it just broke. I think maybe he had contact somewhere, but he knew he had a problem because he was coming into the pit. So clearly the team told him over the radio to come into the pit so they could check on it. And as he comes into the pits, brakes obviously hard to go down to the pit speed limit. And the front right tyre just dislodges itself. So Sergio Perez out of the race. And Hadjar is indeed under investigation. Are we seeing anything from that? Nope, just now looking at it. The stewards have been busy this afternoon, has to be said. Piastri still got a penalty holding or hanging over his head. And not inside of the point scoring place is the sole McLaren that is left in this Grand Prix after what has been an absolute disaster for the McLaren guys anyway. And Piastri not inside of the point scoring places at the moment. I mean, Hadjar, if he does get a penalty, is 40 seconds ahead of Colapinto. And Colapinto's got a broken front wing, so... I think Hadjar, even if he does get a penalty, will probably hold on to that 5th place unless it is a minute penalty, to be honest. George Russell has made his way back to the pits. A little hug with Toto Wolff. Toto Wolff's left the garage to come and have a chat with George Russell as he's making his way back to the... and a 10-second time penalty for Isaac Hadjar is indeed applied. So Hadjar only 31 seconds to Franco Colapinto, with that extra 10 seconds being added to his time. Gabriel Bortoletto actually lapping Lance Stroll there. The Audi car in 13th place, lapping Lance Stroll in 15th. The gaps between the cars this weekend are just insane. I don't get it. We've seen some really interesting races, and like this has been it's been a good race, but at the same time has also just been really odd in the fact that all of the gaps between all of the cars you'd expect to be in similar ranges to one another are just miles adrift. And there's been lots of mistakes from drivers you wouldn't expect mistakes from as well. It's been a really awkward race to watch, more than like good or bad, I would say. And a lot of penalties also being dished out as well. Just catching up with Kimi Antonelli, our race leader, who's put in the fastest lap of anybody with a 1:14.8 fairly recently and is running around, fairly comfortably in first. It was a very tough first 30 laps for Kimi. He was in the lead, then out of the lead, then in the lead again, and now all of a sudden he's running around with a 6-second gap to the next nearest car and looking at a comfortable 4th victory in a row. Alpine is cooking this season. Colapinto and Gasly inside the point scoring places, looking very tidy indeed. Colapinto's been great, and is Gasly closing in on the back of Lawson? Not really. 5.2 second gap as a virtual safety car is called. I'm not sure what for. Virtual safety car deployed. Maybe a little bit of there's a little bit of debris from Sergio Perez's car. It's on the track. Not sure they needed to really pick that up and put a virtual safety car out. That was very pointless, to be honest. Very pointless. I suppose if you're going for an overtake into turn 13 and you run really deep, you would have hit it, but nah, not for me. Didn't take long. Virtual safety car's ending, and we are back going once again as Max Verstappen has a little weave to warm up his tyres and has Valtteri Bottas in front of him. 16th place and 3 laps down on the race leader. Not sure he's going to put up too much of a fight for Max Verstappen ahead. Verstappen actually still trying to warm up those tyres a little bit. The virtual safety car maybe catching him out in terms of getting those tyres up to temperature. Still a little bit of time left, though. Still a long way to go. Never know. Kimi Antonelli still needs to get it home. He's leading comfortably. 22 laps left for the Italian. 4 in a row, very likely, I would say, at this point. There we go. Reminds to like the stream. What are we up to now? We're above 300 likes. We normally get around the 300 like margin for Grand Prix events. Be very impressed if we can get well above the 300 threshold. How did Hadjar get a 10-second time penalty? He just weaved in front of Charles Leclerc, basically. Leclerc trying to overtake him down towards turn 13. And all of a sudden, Hadjar did have some kind of problem, to be fair. The completely lost power inside of that Red Bull, but then also just weaved left and right to make sure that Charles Leclerc couldn't get the overtake done. So, yeah, deserved penalty for Isaac Hadjar. And Charles Leclerc managed to get past Isaac Hadjar a little bit later on anyway. So Leclerc is back into 4th place, as he should probably be, and Hadjar's back down to 5th, and that 10-second penalty is not going to cost him anything because he is 44.5 seconds ahead of Franco Colapinto. So at that 10 seconds, he is 34 seconds ahead of Franco Colapinto. We have George Russell now talking to the Sky team, and George Russell saying everything just turned off all of a sudden. Nothing that he could do. Engine stopped. No proper braking, and all of it really disappointing if you're a George Russell fan or George Russell yourself. You know, he was doing really well, fighting for the lead, had pole position, was doing pretty much everything he could. And yeah, I feel like he's positive about what's happened over the course of the weekend, as he should be. Like, he did really well, qualified on pole. Just wasn't able to turn it into a victory in the Grand Prix, and through no fault of his own, really. So Kimi is flying right now to keep Max behind. I mean, he's 5 seconds ahead of Verstappen. It's going to be absolutely fine. I think the interesting one is Hamilton has actually closed the gap to 2.2 seconds. Verstappen did look a little bit awkward after the virtual safety car, it has to be said. And Hamilton on the radio saying, "We can do this, guys. I'm pushing." So he thinks with 20 laps left to go, there is still a possible 2nd place up for grabs. Has turned it on a little bit. Hamilton's last lap was half a second quicker than Verstappen's. 2.4 seconds now, the gap. Hamilton just dispatching Franco Colapinto, I think that is, of the 2 Alpines. Maybe we will have a little bit of a race towards the end of this Canadian Grand Prix between the 2021 title rivals, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Not fighting for wins at the moment, but 2nd and 3rd place is nothing to be sniffed at. Charles Leclerc running in 4th, Hadjar in 5th. Colapinto then still running best of the rest and is now 16 seconds ahead of Liam Lawson. Make that 17, so Colapinto comfortably ahead of the Racing Bulls. Charles Leclerc on the radio. And And Charles Leclerc on the radio, let's stop speaking until the last lap. I think that is a shut up from Charles Leclerc in as few words as possible. Leclerc really did not want to be given the update that Hamilton is going a little bit quicker. And Hamilton was closing the gap to Max Verstappen, but just looking at their last laps, a 15.1 and a 15.5. So again, like 0.4 of a second. Let's have a look what Hamilton's lap time is like as he comes through the final sector. Verstappen a 15.0, Hamilton a 15.3. So has dropped back a little bit as Hamilton that last lap. So Hamilton, maybe Verstappen just reacting to that Hamilton lap. Tires are cooling down, says Max Verstappen, so he's not very happy either. Is anybody happy at this Grand Prix? Verstappen's literally running in second place. Charles Leclerc has inherited fourth. Like, they're way higher than we expected them to be, and yet they're still miserable. Nobody wants to be here in Canada this weekend by the looks of things, unless you're Kimi Antonelli. I'd imagine Kimi Antonelli's fairly jubilant on the radio right now. Maybe Franco Colapinto as well, to be fair. And Gasly is actually closing in on Lawson. We might see a little bit of a battle for 7th place developing too. Gasly almost within boost distance. Will not have access to that overtake boost button, though, until he gets to within a second of the Racing Bulls car ahead. Carlos Sainz actually sort of running around in 9th place, having a very quiet Grand Prix, but a very solid Grand Prix, possibly picking up a couple of points for Williams once again. Be very, very helpful for their season. And then Ollie Behrman holding on to the final point scoring place, with Oscar Piastri 5 seconds adrift. Piastri has not looked very comfortable inside of that. I mean, he has done 41 laps on those medium tyres, to be fair. Piastri can't give him too much of a discipline. Like, he's done a long old stint on those medium tyres and has a penalty, so probably not that bothered about trying to get that final 1 point that is available to him, considering how bad this weekend has been for McLaren. Hadjar is actually closing in on Charles Leclerc is within a second of the Ferrari. Would seem a little bit strange for Hadjar to go for that overtaking maneuver, considering he does have a 10-second penalty. And I'm not expecting Hadjar to be able to get past and be a second a lap quicker. Maybe a little mistake from Charles Leclerc. There's a virtual safety car being deployed. Double yellow flag being waved. Where's this virtual safety car now? They're loving a virtual safety car this afternoon. I don't even know what it's for. Interesting. Hamilton 2.25 seconds behind. It might be Isaac Hadjar, actually. Maybe Hadjar just taking the opportunity for a fresh set of tyres. Can't blame him, to be fair. He's got nearly 45-second gap to Franco Colapinto. There's marshals on the track just at turn 11. So at the exit of the hairpin, they picking up like a tiny bit of debris again. God, the stewards are really on it. Relatively decent pit stop. Oscar Piastri also takes the opportunity to stop as well. And to be fair, this might be a good opportunity for Oscar Piastri to get a fresh set of tyres on and maybe have a run. I was going to say at Hulkenberg and Behrman, but I think it's going to be pretty tough because Piastri obviously has a penalty too. Valtteri Bottas also has a penalty. So everybody with penalties deciding to just come in now. And interesting one. Video idea, the race with the most virtual safety cars? Ooh. I don't know that fact off the top of my head, to be fair. I've seen a replay of that move from Oscar Piastri on lap 13 that just wiped out Alex Albon. Very comfortably a 10-second penalty. Maybe more. Like, he absolutely just slams into the side of Alex Albon's car. There is nothing that the Williams could do about it. Alex Albon Joining the scrap heap, 6 cars out of this Grand Prix. Lindblad, Albon, Alonso, Russell, Norris, and Perez all out of this Canadian Grand Prix. To be fair, it was an absolute disaster class from the McLaren team, so Norris probably fairly happy that he doesn't have to finish this Grand Prix, but George Russell in that bottom 6 as well will be very frustrated that he wasn't able to continue his fight for the lead with Kimi Antonelli, who's just kind of been disappearing into the lead. Was ahead by 5 seconds, now ahead by 7 seconds. Just comfortably escaping away from Max Verstappen in second place. As Charles Leclerc has a little bit of a spin and a pirouette. No, manages to catch it. I thought he was going to completely slide around there, Charles Leclerc, but catches it very well, and Leclerc continues on, and that's why he's 15 seconds now adrift of Lewis Hamilton. Both of the Ferrari drivers have had fairly costly mistakes. Hamilton went straight on at turn 8, and then Charles Leclerc giving the Ferrari a little bit of a drift as well. Max Verstappen really struggling with tyre temperature. Another virtual safety car has now killed that again for him. So Verstappen really struggling inside of that Red Bull car, and Lewis Hamilton all of a sudden inside of boost range. Here we go then. Let's see if we've got an overtake in the locker from Lewis Hamilton. He was fairly close to the back of Max Verstappen earlier on in this Grand Prix. As I just said before, he then made a mistake through turn 8 and suddenly was nowhere close to Verstappen. But now is right underneath the rear wing of his 2021 championship rival again. Charles Leclerc now 16 seconds adrift, so Hamilton doesn't need to be worried about his teammate from behind. Hadjar 18 seconds behind Leclerc. And 30 seconds to Franco Colapinto. 17 seconds to Liam Lawson. Pierre Gasly, the only driver really within the top 10, with a shot at getting within overtake range any time soon. Are there another 2 cars that are going to wipe themselves out of this Grand Prix? Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton. We've seen them come into contact with one another a few times before. It's been a little while, though. And Lewis Hamilton suddenly closing into the back of Max Verstappen once more. If he hadn't have made that mistake earlier on in the Grand Prix, Hamilton, he would be right underneath the rear wing for Verstappen for most of this Grand Prix, maybe even ahead of him at this point. So has suddenly come back to life once again, Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen struggling with his tyres, and the Scuderia within striking distance. Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do with 13 laps left of this Canadian Grand Prix. I'm also keeping an eye on Pierre Gasly. There's a possibility here for an Alpine best of the rest double points finish in 6th and 7th place. Lawson currently between the two. Lawson 17 seconds adrift of Colapinto, though. 1.1 seconds the gap to Gasly behind. But let's also have a little look at Lewis Hamilton, who is very close to the rear end of Verstappen. 0.4 seconds the gap as they come around the hairpin. Not quite within overtaking distance, I don't think, depending on the straight line speed advantage that Hamilton has got. He has a little look, though, does Lewis Hamilton, and wasn't as far off as I was expecting. Lewis Hamilton sneaking up behind Max Verstappen, and now certainly going to go for a move down towards turn 1. No, decides against it. I thought was right underneath the rear wing going through turn 13. Thought he might have a little look there, but Hamilton decides to leave it for now. Does just feel like Hamilton is going to get past Max Verstappen here, looking way racier than the Red Bull. And the pace of the Scuderia looking very solid indeed, with Hamilton clicking into gear in these final few laps. Let's have a little look where Verstappen decides to defend. They're coming through turn 8 and turn 9 now. Usually, maybe Hamilton will go for a little surprise move into turn 10. Doesn't this time around, but wants to be as close to the rear wing of Max Verstappen as possible. You get that boost, you get the slipstream, you're down the back straight. There's a Valtteri Bottas-shaped Cadillac in the way. They're going to have to be a little bit careful of Cadillac. Bottas actually was the reason that Russell lost the lead to Antonelli at one point. And Bottas does get out of the way once again. This time doesn't get in the way of either of the two. But Bottas, how many laps down is Bottas? 4 laps down on the race leaders. Goodness gracious me. Here we go then. Hamilton coming around at turn 1 and turn 2 again, sticking right underneath the rear wing of Max Verstappen. Still got a little while to go though, Lewis Hamilton. So maybe just needs to be cautious about when he goes for this striking maneuver. Doesn't have to rush himself. Knows that Max Verstappen's tyres just aren't quite in the range that they want to be. Hambot Ver. We did have Hambot Ver just for a moment there. No, we didn't. We had Verbot Ham. Verbot Ham. Or Bot Ver Ham for a moment as well, too. For the, is that vintage at this point? Lewis Hamilton not quite as close to the rear wing. And Hamilton on the radio asking if there's anything that the Ferrari team can give him to just have a little bit more power down the straights. Can he save a little battery here and there? Asking the team for where they can give him a little bit of advice to just have a go at the back of Max Verstappen's car. Verstappen 8.7 seconds adrift of Antonelli, so Verstappen just needs to be in defensive mode. Charles Leclerc 18.8 seconds back from these two. Hadjar another 15. Pierre Gasly is now within overtake range, by the way, as well. Gasly, 8th place, was a 10th of a second quicker than Lawson last time around, but now has that overtake boost to his advantage also. So let's see what Gasly can do in 8th place against Liam Lawson. Carlos Sainz holding on to 9th place fairly comfortably, has a 4-second gap to Ollie Behrman. Behrman is lapping quicker than Sainz, but not by a considerable amount to cause any problem to the Spanish driver. So looking like a couple of points pretty much locked in for Carlos Sainz and the Williams team. And the final point scoring place certainly going to Ollie Behrman with Nico Hülkenberg 15 seconds adrift in 11th place. Of course, Nico Hülkenberg is in 11th place. That's where he lives. You don't even have to look. You could close your eyes and ask me, where is Nico Hülkenberg on the track? And I just know it'll be 11th. Defensive masterclass from Verstappen. I mean, Hamilton's just not quite there. Whether Hamilton's not quite got the tyre advantage anymore, maybe Verstappen. It's been a little while since that virtual safety car. It was the virtual safety cars that were causing Max Verstappen to have those cool tyres, and he was struggling to get them back up to temperature, was what he was saying over the radio. So possibly it's been long enough now since the virtual safety car that Verstappen has been able to get his tyres back up to full temperature, because Hamilton nowhere near as close to Verstappen over the last couple of laps compared to where he was before. Antonelli just getting a little reminder that he is still in the race and still leading the race with almost 8 laps left to go. And just building a little bit more of a gap to Verstappen behind, a 9-second gap to the Red Bull car. And this is what I mean with Lewis Hamilton. He's just not anywhere close enough to Max Verstappen for now. Is close enough that he'll get that overtake boost, will get the extra megajoules to his advantage, but isn't able to use them anywhere where it's actually giving him the opportunity to make a dent. Verstappen continuing on, and 18 points would go into the bag of Max Verstappen. He'd move up to, I know he'd be 7th in the Drivers' Championship still, wouldn't he? Be a couple of points off Oscar Piastri. Kimi Antonelli's the main one to look at, though. In fact, should we have a little look at the championship board just for a moment, because Hamilton is not currently within striking distance at the moment. If I show you the championship board as it stands, Antonelli would be almost 50 points clear of George Russell. 131 points to 88 of George Russell. 75 for Charles Leclerc. He'd be fairly comfortably in third. Lewis Hamilton in fourth. Oh, and a yellow flag is being waved. Nico Hülkenberg stopped momentarily at turn 1, but has continued on. Lewis has a little look at turn 13. Is Lewis within striking distance down towards turn 1 this time around? Let's have a little look at this as he's right underneath it. And Hamilton's going to go around the outside. And Lewis Hamilton with a brilliant move does indeed get that move past Max Verstappen. Hamilton's up into second place and finally gets past Max Verstappen. He just kind of waited and watched, didn't he? Very nice from Lewis Hamilton. Felt like he was falling back a little bit, but maybe just needed a couple of laps to prepare the battery, get the tyres back into the right position, and then snapped into it. Lewis Hamilton then gaining another 3 points there, and Verstappen falling backwards to third place. Still a podium for both of them, but a second place finish for Lewis Hamilton, where he does hold the record for the most victories. And oh, that was a little slip and a slide by Nico Hülkenberg. Just gets a little bit too far to the right on the entrance to turn 1 and actually dips his tyres onto the grass there, I think, Nico Hülkenberg, which sent his Audi for a spin, but he's continued on. Hasn't joined the just, well, graveyard of cars that we've got from this Grand Prix weekend at this point. But Lewis Hamilton then up into second place. And a great drive from Lewis this weekend, has to be said. Just a shame, like, he made that mistake. Could have been ahead of Max Verstappen earlier than this. But is ahead of Max Verstappen nonetheless. And Verstappen actually trying to come back at Lewis Hamilton. Not able to do it this time around. As we were talking about, though, Hamilton will now move up and still move up ahead of Lando Norris in terms of the driver standings. Gasly will also jump into best of the rest in front of Ollie Behrman. Lawson and Colapinto picking up a good chunk of points for themselves as well. 16 and 15 they'll be on. Hadjar will gain 10 points to go on to 14. Still 12th place for Isaac Hadjar. Lindblad, the real loser from this weekend, though, should have been probably where Colapinto is right now. Should Arvid Lindblad, and now will drop down to 14th place in the driver standings. Lance Stroll will actually gain on Fernando Alonso with a better finish in this race just because of how many cars are not in this race anymore. Oh, they've given a stop and go penalty to Isaac Hadjar. Incident involving Isaac Hadjar again, and a stop and go penalty. Wow. So maybe Isaac Hadjar might actually... Where is Hadjar? Nah, 43 seconds ahead of Franco Colapinto. Maybe not. And Pierre Gasly, half a second adrift of Liam Lawson's. Probably the final place up for grabs. Although Verstappen's still sitting within boost range of Lewis Hamilton, so that fight's not necessarily done and dusted at this point. Gasly closing in behind 0.8 of a second. Pierre Gasly behind Liam Lawson. 22 seconds adrift, Carlos Sainz. So nothing to worry about behind. Just a straight fight for 7th place between those two. Antonelli 10 seconds ahead at the front of the pack. Lewis, Lewis, a little bit of a slide going into the hairpin. Will that offer Max Verstappen the opportunity to run at him? No, not this time around at all. Verstappen almost a second adrift, and if he does not have that overtake boost available to him, then I feel like Hamilton will be able to disappear away from him. Just needs to make sure he's within that second as they go through the detection point. Pierre Gasly closing into the back of Lawson once again. Has a little look at the Racing Bulls car. Not able to do it this time as they make their way through turn 13 and 14 to start lap 60. Are they lapped? They are lapped. Lap 64 of their Grand Prix. Everybody has been lapped apart from Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, and Lewis Hamilton are the only drivers still on the first lap. On the leading lap, I should say. Oscar Piastri is caught up to the back of Gabriel Bortoleto. If you're interested in where the McLaren car is at, 13th fastest at the moment. There's quite a lot of vibration going on the left-hand side of Oscar Piastri's car. Clearly some damage from when he collided with Alex Albon. And Piastri does indeed manage to get past Gabriel Bortoleto and moves himself up into 12th place. Not really too much to write home about there from Piastri's race, though. Hamilton still has Verstappen in his wing mirrors, and Verstappen hasn't given up on it yet. 0.6 seconds adrift, and 0.4 as they make their way through the corner, but I just think Hamilton's got that little bit of extra pace compared to Verstappen. I'm not sure Verstappen's really going to be able to lunge at him. Tell you who is going to lunge. Pierre Gasly goes to the left-hand side of the track, and Liam Lawson doesn't make the corner either. Neither Lawson or Gasly make turn 13. They both use the runoff area as they're fighting with one another for 7th place. 0.2 seconds the gap between Lawson and Gasly. They're going to be right on top of one another until right at the end of this Grand Prix. Let's have a little look at this replay. Gasly moves to the left-hand side of the track. Lawson covers the inside. Neither of them actually make the corner, though. And neither of them really using the runoff area in the way that they're supposed to. But, Lawson and Gasly will continue their fight. Down at the hairpin, Bortoleto moves out of the way of Hamilton and Verstappen. Gasly closing into the back of Lawson once again as they make their way to the final sector. Here they come through turn 10. Let's keep an eye on where the Frenchman is as Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls car gets a little bit squirmish out of turn 10. Is Gasly going to be within striking distance this time around? Verstappen's a little bit closer than he has been in the last couple of laps as well, though. So Hamilton now with a Red Bull full in his wing mirrors. Gasly going to the left-hand side of the track versus Lawson. Can't make it this time around. Lawson holds on to that position ahead of the Alpine. Hamilton under pressure. Lawson under pressure too. There's a couple of places up for grabs in the final couple of laps that we've got here in Canada. Kimi Antonelli, though, looking at a 4th win in a row and a comfortable victory for Kimi Antonelli. After what was a monstrous 30 laps at the beginning of the race, had to really battle for every single piece of time that he could find in comparison to his teammate George Russell. George Russell's race came to an end, and all of a sudden, Antonelli was in the freest of lands, just able to run away from the rest of the pack. A lot of traffic in front. Oh, as Oscar Piastri, a big lock-up into turn 13. Hamilton keeping Verstappen at bay as they join the final lap of the race then. Will Verstappen have a go at Hamilton in this final lap? Doesn't look like it down towards turn 1. Should be all done and dusted. At the front, though, Antonelli comes through the first sector for the final time this afternoon. And it's all a little bit tricky for Hamilton and Verstappen. There's a lot of backmarker cars. Hülkenberg gets out of the way. Piastri and Stroll also now in front of the duo. And Hadjar actually not too far ahead of Max Verstappen now. Almost lapped by his teammate. Gasly and Lawson were fighting with one another, but Gasly has stayed behind Liam Lawson, has actually fallen a little bit further adrift of Liam Lawson. The Racing Bulls car likely to hold on to that 7th place ahead of Pierre. Max Verstappen fighting with Lewis Hamilton once more, maybe. Comes out of turn 10, doesn't look very close to Lewis Hamilton's car, and I don't think we'll be able to get it done. But I'll tell you who has. Kimi Antonelli takes a 4th win in a row and leads the Drivers' Championship by almost 2 race victories worth of points. Lewis Hamilton does come across the line to take 2nd place in the Scuderia. Max Verstappen just behind within a second of him. Charles Leclerc is going to come home in 3rd place for Ferrari. Isaac Hadjar, being lapped, has already taken the checkered flag. A stunning drive from Franco Colapinto in the Alpine car, it has to be said. Takes 6th place, comfortably ahead of Liam Lawson in 7th, and then Pierre Gasly settles for 8th place in the Alpine behind. A little bit of a wait now for Carlos Sainz to come down the back straight. Ollie Behrman has close that gap, but it's still a second adrift of Carlos Sainz, so shouldn't affect where the Spaniard is going to finish, and won't, as they come around the final couple of corners, take the checkered flag in 9th and 10th place. And they are the points scoring finishers confirmed. Antonelli on the radio gets the congratulations from the Bono side of the garage. And Antonelli says, not the way he wanted to win. He wanted to have a fair and square battle with his teammate George Russell. But I think if you ask him in a few races' time, he'll definitely take those 25 points. I think he'd be fairly happy with that in comparison to his teammate. And actually, Lewis Hamilton on the radio, very happy indeed as well. Here's a final round out of the championship standings after that Grand Prix then. Just get them up for myself. Antonelli, as I say, nearly 50 points ahead, 131 to 88. Very, very solid 43-point lead for Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc then, third place, 75 points. Hamilton will be moving up to fourth with Lando Norris dropping a position. Piastri stays sixth. Verstappen stays seventh. Gasly jumps up in front of Ollie Behrman for the best of the rest place in the midfield. And then Colapinto with those 8 points on the board, not quite able to catch Liam Lawson in the end. If Pierre Gasly would have been able to get in front, he would have just moved that Alpine up in front of them as well, but not this time around. Hadjar moves up to 12th, Sainz up to 13th as Lindblad, the big loser really, drops to 14th place, loses 2 positions in the standings. Bortoletto, Ocon and Albon don't add to their points that they've got so far this season. Hulkenberg, Bottas, Perez, Stroll and Alonso still the only drivers yet to score points this year. And the only change in the constructor standings, Racing Bulls move 2 points ahead of the Haas team in 6th place. Thank you guys so much for watching. For a final time, if you could hit that like button, subscribe button if you're new, that'd be absolutely amazing. We will be live for the Monaco Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, so make sure you don't miss that. But also between then, loads of videos coming to the channel. Crash Happy as well. I'm going to be recording with them tomorrow, so make sure you get your ideas in there. We'll have a chat about everything that happened in this Canadian Grand Prix. Thank you so much, and I will see you again very, very soon.